Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at what's it like to be a spirit.
Not just in like a sort of vague ethereal sense, but like what do they actually experience?
Exactly. That's what we're going to try to get at today. And we're going straight to the source for this one.
Yeah, Allan Kardec's The Spirits book.
Yeah.
This book is really interesting because it's based on direct communication with spirits answering Kardec's questions.
Like a Q&A with the other side.
Yeah, through mediums.
Very cool. And specifically, we're diving into the sections on perceptions, sensations, and sufferings of spirits, and the theoretical essay on sensation in spirits
That's right.
to uncover some really fascinating insights. So if you ever wondered if spirits feel pain, experience beauty, or even get tired, this is the deep dive for you.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we learn right away is that spirits, they retain all the senses that they had as humans,
Okay.
but they also gain a whole new set of abilities because they're no longer limited by the physical body.
So like a sensory upgrade.
Yeah, imagine seeing without eyes or hearing without ears.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Oh.
But here's the catch, right?
Okay.
Their knowledge and their perception, it's directly linked to their spiritual evolution.
It is.
So like lower spirits, those who are newly departed, they're kind of on par with us in terms of what they know.
Yeah, and this leads to some really interesting differences in how they perceive time, for example.
Okay.
So spirits, they experience centuries as mere instants.
Whoa.
Yeah. So think about what that means for judging the future or understanding the past from their perspective.
It completely changed how you view events unfolding.
It would. It's like they're watching a time-lapse video while we're stuck in real time.
Right.
And while they do have a clearer view of the present than we do, the clarity depends on their level of evolution. Higher spirits see more, understand more.
So even within the spirit world, there are levels of understanding and awareness.
Absolutely.
What they perceive, how clearly they see the past, present, and future.
Yeah.
It all kind of hinges on their spiritual development.
Absolutely. And speaking of seeing, the way spirits describe their vision is really remarkable.
Okay.
They don't see with just their eyes, but with their entire being. There's no darkness for them, no physical obstacles to block their sight.
So they don't need eyes in the way that we do.
No, not at all. They describe it as being made of light that can also see.
Whoa.
And here's where it gets even more mind-boggling. They can see in multiple places simultaneously.
Whoa.
Yeah, imagine being aware of events happening all over the world at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That would be so overwhelming at first.
It would.
But I imagine, as they evolve, they learn to process that kind of information flow.
Exactly. And just like with sight, their hearing is also heightened.
Okay.
They can pick up sounds that are completely beyond our human range.
It's like their senses have just been completely blown wide open.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the limitations of our physical bodies and how much more there might be to perceive beyond our current understanding.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So this concept of expanded senses, it's absolutely fascinating. But this brings us to a question that I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
What about music?
Okay.
Do spirits experience it?
Well, prepare to be amazed because the spirits describe experiencing a kind of celestial music that is beyond human comprehension.
Oh, wow.
It's like a symphony of the soul, a
Oh, wow.
vibration that resonates on a completely different level.
So they have access to this incredible ethereal music.
Yeah.
But can they still appreciate the music that we create here on Earth?
They can, especially while they're still evolving. They can enjoy and appreciate our music, even though they have access to something far more profound.
So it's like they can tap into both frequencies.
Yes,
The earthly and the celestial.
exactly.
Interesting. And it's not just music, right? They experience the beauty of nature on this grand cosmic scale.
That's right. They describe it as seeing the interconnectedness of everything, the vastness and beauty of the universe.
In a way that's beyond our limited human perception.
Absolutely. It's like they're seeing the big picture, the grand design, while we're focused on the individual brushstrokes.
So speaking of like the nitty-gritty of life here,
Yeah.
what about basic physical needs?
Okay.
Like hunger or thirst? Do spirits still experience those?
That's one of the interesting things about spirit life. Those needs simply vanish. They no longer have physical bodies, so they don't require sustenance in the same way.
No more grocery shopping.
No.
I could get used to that.
Right.
What about fatigue? Do spirits ever feel tired?
They do experience fatigue, but it's mental, not physical.
Right.
Imagine the exhaustion from intense thinking or processing vast amounts of information.
So it's more like mental burnout than physical tiredness.
Exactly. And as you might have guessed, the purer the spirit, the less rest they require. Their capacity for mental activity seems to expand with their spiritual evolution.
This is also fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground already, from expanded senses to the absence of physical needs.
I have.
But there's one big question that I think is on a lot of people's minds.
Okay.
Can spirits suffer?
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of this deep dive.
All right.
Because the answer is not as simple as you might think.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The spirit's insights into the nature of suffering in the afterlife are both profound and thought-provoking.
Well, let's get into it then.
Welcome back to our deep dive into spirit life. We've been exploring some of the ways that spirits perceive the world, their heightened senses, and even how they experience things like music and beauty.
And now for the big question. Can spirits suffer?
You know, even though they no longer have physical bodies?
Right, exactly. So no stubbed toes or headaches in the spirit world.
No stubbed toes, no headaches, but the answer is more complex than a simple yes or no.
Okay.
According to Kardec and the spirits he spoke with, yes, they can suffer, but it's not the same kind of suffering that we experience here on Earth.
Okay, so then what kind of suffering are we talking about here?
They describe experiencing mental anguish, emotional pain that can be even more intense than physical pain.
Okay.
Imagine the pain of grief, regret, remorse, but amplified.
Wow, that sounds really, really heavy.
Yeah, and to understand it fully, we need to talk about the paraspirit.
Okay, so remind me what that is again, and how does it play into all this?
So the paraspirit is basically a semi-material envelope that links the spirit to the physical body during life.
Okay.
It's made of a subtler form of matter and acts as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms.
So it's like an energetic connection that kind of persists even after death.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that the paraspirit can retain imprints of physical sensations and emotions even after the spirit has left the body.
So that's why some spirits might still feel the pain of a physical injury even though they no longer have a body.
Right.
It's like a phantom limb sensation, but on a much deeper level.
Yeah, the spirits even gave an example to illustrate this. They described the case of a suicide who continued to feel the sensation of worms devouring his body even after death.
Okay, that's disturbing, but I get it. Even though the spirit was no longer inhabiting the body, the paraspirit was still carrying the imprint of those sensations.
Exactly. It highlights this deep connection between the spirit, the paraspirit, and the physical body, and that this connection can linger for a while after death, especially for less evolved spirits.
So it's not that the spirit is literally feeling those sensations,
Right.
but rather the paraspirit is still attuned to them and relaying that back to the spirit.
Yeah, it's like a phantom echo of those physical experiences.
So this is starting to paint a really complex picture of the afterlife. You know, it's not just this disembodied existence,
Right.
but a transition where the spirit is still kind of connected to its past experiences through the paraspirit.
And that connection has a direct impact on how much suffering a spirit might experience.
Okay.
The more a spirit clings to those negative imprints, the more they suffer.
So it's like a vicious cycle.
It is, but there is a way to break free from that cycle.
Okay.
It's all about spiritual growth and purification.
So as the spirit evolves and lets go of those negative attachments, its paraspirit becomes lighter and finer.
Exactly. It's like shedding a heavy coat layer by layer, freeing themselves from the weight of those past burdens.
So it's like a gradual process of refinement, moving from a state of potential suffering to greater peace and freedom.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really empowering. We have agency in this process.
Okay.
The choices we make in this life, the qualities we cultivate, all have a direct impact on the state of our paraspirit.
And ultimately, our experience in the afterlife.
It's not just about passively waiting for what comes next, but actively shaping our future experience.
Through the way we live now.
The spirits were very clear about this. Conquering negative passions like hate, envy, jealousy, pride is essential for preparing our paraspirit for a smoother transition.
It's like we're refining our energetic blueprint, making it less susceptible to those lingering lower vibrations.
Yeah.
So what specifically happens to the paraspirit after death? Does it just vanish?
So the spirits described it as a gradual process of detachment.
Okay.
It doesn't happen instantly at the moment of death.
So there's a period of transition where the paraspirit is still connected to the physical body.
Yes, and imagine the confusion for a spirit who doesn't realize they've died right away.
Oh my God.
They might still feel a connection to their body, observe their own funeral, but wonder why no one's responding to them.
That would be so disorienting.
It would. It's like waking up from a dream but not being sure if you're fully awake yet.
Right.
And this state of limbo can last for varying lengths of time depending on the spirit's evolution and their attachment to the material world.
So those who are really attached to material possessions or like worldly success, they might have a harder time letting go.
Exactly. And the longer it takes for the perispirit to fully detach, the more potential there is for suffering.
Okay, this is heavy, but it's really, really fascinating.
Mm.
So this whole concept of the perispirit and its role in the afterlife is really complex.
It is, and we've only scratched the surface here. But I think the key takeaway is that our actions in this life have a direct impact on our experience in the next, and that we have the power to shape that experience through the choices we make today.
That's a really powerful message to leave our listeners with. Welcome back to our deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, we've been uncovering some pretty fascinating insights from Allan Kardec's The Spirits book.
We have, especially when it comes to the perispirit and its role in how spirits experience the afterlife.
Yeah, it's a truly fascinating concept, isn't it? This semi-material link between the spirit and the physical body that persists even after death.
It really challenges how we think about that transition from the physical to the spiritual. You know, It's not just a sudden separation, but this gradual process of detachment.
Right.
With really profound implications for how spirits perceive and experience the world.
And as we discussed in the last part, this detachment process can be pretty disorienting for some spirits.
It can.
Especially those who are really attached to their physical lives.
Yeah, imagine, observing your own funeral.
Oh, gosh.
And wondering why no one is responding to you.
It would be so strange. Like being stuck in this weird in-between state.
The spirits described it as a kind of limbo.
Okay.
Where they're aware that they're no longer in their physical body, but they're still connected to it through the perispirit.
Like they haven't fully crossed over yet.
Right, and the length of this limbo state seems to depend on a number of factors, including their level of spiritual development.
Okay.
And their attachment to material things.
So the more a spirit is clinging to those earthly ties, the longer it might take for the perispirit to detach.
Exactly. And as we talked about, this prolonged connection can lead to suffering as the perispirit continues to carry those imprints of past traumas, negative emotions.
It's like carrying around this heavy backpack filled with, emotional baggage.
Yeah, it weighs you down and makes it harder to move forward.
But there's hope.
There is.
There's a way to kind of break free from that cycle.
Yes. As the spirit evolves and lets go of those negative attachments, their perispirit becomes lighter and finer. It's like shedding those heavy layers,
Right.
freeing themselves from the weight of the past.
So it's a process of purification. Refining their energetic blueprint.
Yeah.
Making it less susceptible to those lower vibrations.
Exactly.
But how does this detachment actually happen?
Yeah.
What do the spirits say about that?
They describe it as a gradual unfolding, like a delicate flower opening its petals. As the perispirit disengages from the physical body, the spirit begins to experience this heightened awareness of the spiritual realm.
So it's like their perception is shifting from the physical to the spiritual.
It is, like their senses are being attuned to a new frequency.
And as this awareness expands, they might encounter loved ones who've passed on before them.
Yeah.
Or even spirit guides who come to assist them in their transition.
Absolutely.
That's so nice to know. They're not alone in this process.
They're not.
There's support available to them.
And even for those who have experienced, traumatic deaths, suicides, accidents, sudden illnesses, there's still hope for healing and progress.
Yeah, I can only imagine that those kinds of deaths would be just so abrupt and jarring.
Absolutely.
In terms of separation.
The spirits did acknowledge that in those cases of, sudden or violent death, the perispirit might be more strongly attached to the physical body.
Okay.
Making the detachment process more difficult.
So it's like a sudden rip or tear rather than a gentle unfolding.
Right.
But even in those cases, there's still potential for healing and moving forward.
Absolutely. The spirits emphasize that love and compassion are the most powerful healing forces in the universe, both here and in the hereafter.
Wow.
And there are always those in the spirit world who are dedicated to helping others heal and progress.
That's amazing.
No matter how challenging their circumstances might be.
It's like there's this cosmic safety net.
It is.
This web of love that's always there to catch us when we fall.
And the beautiful thing is we can all contribute to that web of love.
Through the choices we make.
Through the choices we make in this life.
The more we cultivate compassion, forgiveness, understanding, the more we strengthen that safety net,
Absolutely.
not just for ourselves, but for all beings.
It's a reminder that, we're all interconnected,
Mm.
part of a larger whole.
Right.
And our actions have ripple effects that extend far beyond our immediate sphere of influence.
It's like we're not just individuals walking around. We're part of this like beautiful tapestry.
We are. And the spirit world offers this really unique perspective on that interconnectedness.
Mm.
It allows us to see beyond the limitations of our physical senses
Okay.
and perceive the deeper unity that binds us all together.
So it's not about escaping from the world or detaching from our earthly responsibilities.
Right.
It's about recognizing that interconnectedness
Yeah.
and living a life that reflects that understanding.
That's beautifully said. And as we conclude this deep dive into Allan Kardec's The Spirits book, I hope our listeners walk away with a sense of both wonder and empowerment.
Wonder at the vastness and complexity of the spirit world,
Mm.
and empowerment knowing that we have the ability to shape our own experience in the afterlife
Yes.
through the choices we make here and now.
Our actions have consequences that extend far beyond our physical existence.
Yeah.
And we have the power to create, a more positive and fulfilling experience for ourselves and for others,
Mhm.
both in this life and the next.
It's such a profound message of hope and responsibility.
It is.
Well, thank you for taking us on this fascinating journey today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been an exploration into the mysteries of spirit life,
Yeah.
as revealed by the spirits themselves. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.